David, it's great to see you. I was thinking about how long we've actually known each other. I remember I was working for a startup in New York City, and this is now about 18 years ago, which completely blows my mind. I have white hair now and a family, and I'm a dad, and it's crazy how the time really passes. But you were at an agency at the time that was really leading the charge. This is for the folks out there. This was the beginning of the social media revolution, right? Like there was a time, I know it's hard to kind of sort of wrap your head around this now because social is such an integrated part of our lives. But there was a time where like we had to talk to brands and agencies and organizations of all kinds into using social media. Anyways, real quick, why don't you tell folks a little bit about that journey, how you became one of the top consultants in technology?
Well, Jorge, it's amazing to be back with you here. And I don't know if your lighting's especially good, but you're still barely looking 18 yourself. So I can't believe it's been about 2 decades knowing each other and learning from each other in some way. And yeah, because when we met, I was in more of an actual innovation role on the agency side, and a big shout out to the crew at 360i. Dentsu had kind of sunset the brand for a while, and now they're even bringing it back because it was just such a linchpin of being at the forefront of really innovation in the advertising marketing side. They're an incredible group to get to be able to work with so closely. And so all along the way, I mean, from even beforehand when I was at eMarketer to after doing a mix of marketing and strategy work across agency and marketing and ad tech brands and doing some consulting, it's like, yeah, I've had a lot of opportunities to just learn from some of the most amazing folks out there, build a couple of communities like Serial Marketers and AI Marketers Guild that are now part of Marketecture, and just try, like a lot of us, to help make sense of all this craziness that's going on. And heck, in the AI space is more than there has been in a while.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I wanted to double click on a couple aspects of this AI LLM revolution. But as you know, I've been diving deep into the GEO, AEO, AIO. I know there's tons of acronyms, right? And, we're trying to kind of figure out this space. But from your perspective, right, maybe we can start off with some of the differences for the brands and agencies out there. Some of the differences between this new AI-based revolution, LLM-based revolution, and then traditional SEO.
Well, I mean, ultimately, the fundamentals are kind of similar from the consumer perspective. People need to go somewhere to go and find out new information about brands, products, categories, all of that. So much of what marketers have learned over the past 30 years or so with the rise of digital media is still relevant in terms of meeting people where they are. And it's no different than the history of marketing. People were getting most of their information from word of mouth or from newspapers or from the 6 o'clock news. Like, then you've got to find ways to go and get as close as possible to that content, and sometimes even create content, right? Brands were creating soap operas and selling soap. So what's new though is this heavy filtration layer, and I think the biggest fundamental shift is that even if we look at where search engine marketing, search engine optimization have gone, there are a lot of similarities with that and with Gen Engine Optimization and all these different kinds of acronyms here. But one thing that was really different is with search optimization. Say you get on the first page of Google for a given search, and say your brand is actually findable there. Then when a human clicks that link, then it's going to be a human who is there and reading all this content or engaging with the product page or whatever it is there that you're going to have to influence. And so it's got to sound intelligible, it's got to look good, it's got to do all these things, have a mix of that right brain and left brain to go and try to get someone to do whatever you're trying to get them to do. And maybe it's just stay longer to serve a few more ad units, or maybe you want them to get more information or make a purchase, but you have a goal when they get there and you've got to figure out how to influence them. And so search is that layer in between. With AI, there are some fundamental differences because all of these AI engines are taking all this content and information and reprocessing it and serving it in their own way to often minimize the amount of interaction that someone needs. And so here you have the bots, the crawlers, the AI making so many of these judgment calls. And that means you've got to do a lot more marketing and package your material in ways that are intelligible to them, sometimes in formats that the human will never even see, right? Like that's fundamentally different. And so now I'd argue that you have two main audiences right now, and both those audiences are very different, but they're more like their peers, right? Like, so you have bots and you have humans. And yes, like Gemini and ChatGPT, Perplexity, like they have a lot of different nuances, but they're more similar with how they like their information. And humans, yes, if you're targeting, Fortune 500 CMO versus in a single consumer somewhere, like, yes, those are different people with different needs, but still we tend to go about how we function and process things in more similar ways to each other than we do to a bot. So that's my thesis, at least.
There was a couple kind of things that you said there that really stood out to me. And it's this old world. We talked a lot about personalization for, ad nauseum forever, right? It feels like we're finally able to truly do the level of personalization or darn near close to it that we've been dreaming of, right? With these LLMs, the way that I go in and I ask a question is going to be slightly different than another persona, right? And at least I found it to be really, really challenging in this old pre-LLM world to truly be able to understand the context around, that individual or that human going in there, let's say in Google, or, we did a lot of this stuff in SEO, right, to optimize for keywords, ranking, et cetera. And it feels, I'd love to get your opinion on this. It feels like we are finally now being able to actually extract that information because the LLMs have all this history of these conversations you're essentially having with them, and they are then returning recommendations and, again, engaged with you in this conversation, which was very, very different than, from the actual underpinnings of what search experiences were before, right? And so it feels like now, and of course I'm biased, just the work that I'm doing with like Gumshoe and so on, has really kind of like surfaced that. Like I didn't really understand that personas were so important. They're so key, and they're more important than ever. I always knew that as a salesperson, as a marketer, we wanted to go do, these exercises, right? The ICP exercises and the buyer personas within that. But it oftentimes felt like more of an administrative kind of strategic exercise. And now it feels like we can truly do this kind of stuff. What's your take on that? Like, do you kind of agree with what I was sort of thinking through and seeing now, that like personalization now is truly possible?
Yeah, well, yes and no. I mean, yes, in terms of where we are with how people are using this. Like I remember one of the examples that would come up at a lot of the old search engine marketing conferences is the word bass or bass, and so same spelling, BASS, and so if someone types that into Google, then okay, are they into fishing or are they into music? And yeah, I mean, usually there's going to be a little bit more context around that, but yeah, I mean, English in particular is a very messy language with a lot of nuance to it, so context becomes so important, and having some of that personalization there becomes really key. Now, as there's like AI, technically the switching costs are very low for consumers, except so many of us are getting to appreciate how personalized the material can be as it gets to know us, as we link it up with our emails, our drives, our what's on our laptops. And so now if we're saying, I want to go and replace the last pair of sneakers I got, right? Like, we're typing that into ChatGPT. If we're saying something like that, it's because we already talked to it 2 years ago when we got that prior pair. It should know that we got that pair of Brunson's shoes before Jalen Brunson was the GOAT that he is now, and so it's like we don't have to specify we want these Bronson neon colored shoes and all that. Like, of course, oh yeah, we got you kind of thing. And so the area where I disagree for now, that could change by the time this podcast is, by the time we're done talking today, let alone by the time it's published, is the opportunities to truly serve that personalized content, personalized advertising, even kinds of things like you and I might be looking for a new microphone tomorrow, and so you might just be like new podcast mic, and I might be like HyperX gaming mic, the kind that changes a lot of colors and that all my friends think is really cool and they get all jealous. And I might put in 100-word prompt, and so we might go about this wildly different ways. Can brands start targeting us accordingly? And I think there's a lot of this that's still kind of rudimentary right now. So it's more about being able to understand, yet again, people's language. And if you and I are using similar language, then that's awesome, right? If I'm using similar language to some 85-year-old woodworker in Des Moines, like maybe the two of us actually have a lot in common, then it would be great to be able to actually treat us the same way if we're both starting a new podcast series tomorrow, and theirs is on woodwork and mine's on AI, right? So all of this is I think the tools will evolve, and the data needs to get us there, the tools need to get us there, but that mindset is really important.
Yeah. I'm very, very curious to see what the ad units are going to be like. I haven't seen any ads in ChatGPT. I remember seeing some information that they were going to start monetizing via ads. I'm pretty sure that's still on the plate. I do pay for ChatGPT, so maybe that's why I'm not getting ads. Mm-hmm. But I'm very fascinated with this idea. Am I going to see deep levels of personalization and sort of this proactive, prescriptive type of experience, because it has so much information, that I've been able to put in it the last couple of years, right? So, that's one thing that's really top of mind, and I'm excited to see. The other thing is when we start to extend those ads that are influenced by your LLM conversations and prompts, et cetera, outside, and we start to kind of syndicate those ads. And are we finally going to start to see really, truly personalized ads on, YouTube or, these other experiences that I'm on. I'm super curious about that.
Yeah, I mean, this is something where I have seen a bunch of ads coming into ChatGPT, and so far I think it's like more it's more what you'd expect from like decently targeted ads. It's contextually relevant. Just because I can't resist, experimenting on the fly here at the risk of botching something on a recording here. I just put in like a really vague term in ChatGPT in my browser here, car insurance, and I got 2 ads back, and one from Insurify, one from Liberty Mutual Insurance. None seemed particularly tailored to my history. Obviously, I didn't give it any extra information.
Interesting.
The ChatGPT chimed in and said New York or New Jersey specific insurance requirements, like one of these things it can help with. So I'm hoping that the ads it shows me, I get Liberty Mutual ads all the time, so I'm assuming it can target my market. I'm in Manhattan, I don't have a car, so it's actually a terrible search for me. But now, so it's like I'm hoping the ads can actually deliver on what the consumers need is based on some of this context. But at least, and I guess it's funny. There's Allstate and autoinsurance.com. They're hidden, but I have to go and arrow them over. So I'd imagine people are going to miss those. So there's even like the above the fold and below the fold version of them. And it's, at the very least, it's not like showing me ads for life insurance when I'm looking for car insurance.
Yeah. Well, let's talk a little bit about what you've been seeing around agentic automation of workflows, and frankly, how much adoption have you seen organizations kind of engage in of these agents? Like, we see a lot of people talking on LinkedIn and other places about how they're automating teams out of jobs and all these sort of things. I know there's been some kind of scary stuff out there, just for us humans who have jobs and are wondering what the heck the future looks like in a deeply integrated AI experience. But for now, in 2026, what are you seeing out there? What kind of like roles do you see, or do you see like being replaced, or that you're seeing automated?
Well, some things are really hard to tell, right? Because like, I mean, we've seen another wave of some corporate layoffs, and you have some folks like Oracle and others, and sharing some pretty sizable numbers of reductions right there. But it's also like whenever there's some new excuse to go and reduce headcount, then it's like most companies will just go with whatever's that kind of like path of least resistance and what's going to get the least pushback from their constituents. And so like, yes, AI might be contributing to some roles like in web development, engineering, things like that. But also there are lots of tech companies or bigger companies that are managing big tech teams that are saying like they still need all the same people just to do different work and manage things differently. And now manage all of a sudden you have 100 agents per employee and all these crazy numbers that are starting to come out at some of these companies. Then it's like, well, now people have to orchestrate them. Now people have to keep them in line, and stuff also, it always breaks, right? Like there's very little of this just set it and forget it.
End-to-end stuff.
So it, and then you start employing new agents to go and try to correct the work of prior agents, things like this. Ultimately, is a lot to manage. So yes, like some people are definitely getting displaced due to AI. I think there's no doubt. Yeah, I was thinking back to the quote from the first Lord of the Rings movie where Aragorn and goes and encounters Frodo the Hobbit in this dark and gloomy inn, and says, "So you're frightened? You're not nearly frightened enough." So it's like if you're not frightened, you're probably not thinking hard enough about what the implications are about all this. I was just reading the book Project Maven about AI being used in warfare and how Palantir fits in, and it's like, well, I can't go, live in a bunker right now and just like wait to see, does World War III happen? Is it like 10 times worse than World War II? I don't think any of us can live our lives like that, but also, it's like, what do we want to prevent happening? So we got to be able to think about this and even maybe try to elect people in November who we think will not, have us go down that path. So with any of this stuff right now, I think it's like there's still a lot more of this promise, and it's like what, even with like agentic commerce right now. Google is going to lead the way for a lot of the consumer experience here, like having persistent searches. If you're a sneakerhead, like always have, being able to go find out, when do Knicks players or maybe even Heat players go and drop their next footwear because you want to be first in line and you want your agent to be first in line whenever that happens, and so you're the one selling it on eBay instead of buying it on eBay. With all of that, there's some real potential for this stuff, but it's like the way a lot of this stuff is being used right now is on a much more tempered basis, and where it's being used in a more sophisticated way. If you look at areas like programmatic advertising, or you look at areas like search engine optimization, that there was already so much automation being built into it, then like how different is agentic programmatic advertising from pre-agentic programmatic advertising? Technical people could talk your ear off about this. I'm not as technical, and it looks more similar than it looks different, I think.
Yeah, that's one thing that I've been seeing, the fact that you spoke to kind of the end-to-end and things break and these sort of things when we're setting up these agents. And for me, it's kind of like, do you remember the if this then that
I love
tool?
that.
Yeah, you remember that thing? I used to automate a bunch of like
I was always scouring that, looking for things to automate, and often having a hard time figuring out, well, like, wait, I could put this like Dropbox thing and in Slack. I'm like, wait, why would I do that? But yeah, I love that site.
Yeah. I remember I had like, I don't know, 100 Twitter handles that were spitting out content.
Oh, wow.
And I eventually got messages from people saying, hey, I appreciate you, but you're like, you're like spamming me, every time something happened. Wow. So I was like, oh, it was actually a prominent venture investor that we all know messaged me, and he was cool about it, but he's like, you're literally spamming me from like, 100 different Twitter handles. But
way to go.
Yeah. So, but to kind of the adoption conversation around agents, it's very interesting because I've seen, remember Dharmesh, from HubSpot, he's got a new company that he's kind of self-funded. I believe it's called Agent.ai.
Okay. Yes. And I played with that.
Yeah. And if you look into it, it's interesting because they're like, the agents are basically these micro workflows, right? These micro if this then that kind of things. At least that's my interpretation, and they're very task specific. So I still haven't seen complete human kind of automation end to end agents right now that would take a human out of the loop. Now I personally experience AI making me orders of magnitude more efficient. I'm able to wear multiple hats across multiple functions and move very, very fast, across a lot of different things. And, you talked about vibe coding. I mean, I've gone completely crazy vibe coding stuff that I would have never had any business digging into. For example, the other day I built this digital sales room kind of product. And then the funny thing is, my last startup, we were building basically these types of content tools, digital sales rooms, and so on. This is pre-LLM, pre-vibe coding. I damn near built the entire product that it took us 2.5 years to build, manually.
Yeah.
In 2 or 3 days. It's crazy. I was just sitting there going, oh my gosh, right? Like, again, I had no business in pre-LLM doing this kind of product development, and I had no clue how to do it, frankly. I tried to learn Python a couple of times. It was not a good experience for me. But this vibe coding stuff really has been able to do wonders. I mean, I know you're building a lot of stuff. What is your take on that piece, which is this sort of marketing engineer type function or capability that for me is very, very exciting. It allows us to build these things in a matter of, sometimes hours, minutes, days, right? That we would never had the opportunity to do in the past, or we would have had to bring in engineering headcount. And, that's, when does that ever happen, right? What's your take on the impact of that and what this new kind of modern marketer, AI-enabled marketer look like?
Well, I'm so fascinated by this that if you look at any aspect of AI that I'm personally spending the most on out of my own pocket, it's vibe coding. If you look at any aspect that I am spending the most time on nights and weekends, it's vibe coding. Like you, I had no business building products 2-3 years ago. And in the past 3 months, I've shipped about 30, no joke. I've got the site built that with AI.com to showcase a whole roster of products. And what happened for me was and also a lot of the stuff I use are what like coders would call some of the more basic things out there. I was using Base 44 for a while. I right now I'm building a ton in Lovable. I tried ChatGPT, Codex, played with Claude Code. I still like something where it's like the old WYSIWYG model, the what you see is what you get, back from like early web days, where I can instantly see what I'm doing. And then my kind of not so secret weapon is having Gemini help me plan and also debug things. And so like I'll publish a draft of a site and then sit there with the Gemini sidebar in Chrome and be like, okay, like this isn't working, why not? Or what could I do better here? And like start, and then give me instructions to paste back to Lovable. And it was this whole evolution for me where it started with, let me just do a landing page for some talk I'm giving. Okay, this is great. Well, now let me bring my own site onto here instead of WordPress, so I can just start updating this on the fly. And then I started creating all these kinds of other hooks into it and adding all the things to it. Okay, like that was fun. Then let me build some content sites. Like some of it's just for fun, right? Like I built backofthebag.com. It's a recipe site because I was just talking to someone about how much I love making Toll House cookies. And I'm like, I wonder if there's a site for something like this. I couldn't find it. Gemini couldn't find it. I built it, and now it's got an automatic function going to go and crawl things like that. And but then like that big game changer for me was when I built my own first product that like other people, prosumers could use, and it was for more of the community management thing. And I'm like, holy shit, I built a product that works, that if like I would potentially pay money for. I'm not like trying to go and actively sell really any of this stuff now, but like I built this and I have no business building it. And then I started building marketing tech, and like my favorite thing right now is a synthetic research tool called PanelSynth. And I'm like, I'm actually showing this to people and it works. I built a job finding assistant called Unfindable, also just like giving this away because I want to see if it can actually help people improve their own GEO presence. and so be a complement to like sort of like the job seekers version of what you're doing with Gumshoe, but like, very like, just easy, accessible to anyone, and obviously nowhere near as sophisticated, but like help feed that in to be part of the solution, and so it's like, let's just go and when there are things like this where, I want to say, oh, wait, like I was working on that thing for years, or like that tool died, or I'm like playing around with this thing, like this tool for synthetic research doesn't seem like it's all that. Could I even build this thing? And I'm often asking Gemini, like that's usually one of my first questions, like, do I have any business even building this thing? And sometimes the answer, it usually won't tell me right away, is no, actually, like one of the biggest hiccups is like the data is prohibitively expensive, right? Like to build your own like enterprise grade GEO tool, you need a lot of horsepower behind that. You need a lot of access to data that like an independent person probably isn't going to have. Maybe you could build a small piece of it though yourself, right? Like so, but then maybe there's something else you can build that actually meets a certain need of yours that no one really bothered to solve.
Yeah, awesome. David, thank you so much for sharing your story, sharing your knowledge. I know we've done this a couple times. We shot that content series with those guys out of Boston a couple of years ago. I really appreciate you just always making time. I know you're super busy. If folks wanted to learn more about how you can help them, I know you work with some top B2B tech brands out there, or maybe they want to join your community, or maybe just follow your insights and the information you're sharing. What are the best channels or URLs to reach you?
Yeah, LinkedIn's always great. D Berkowitz there. I've got my own playground at highcaliberai.com, David at highcaliberai.com. If people are still emailing these days, or I don't know if you can reach me directly through AI yet, but probably can find me somewhere in there too. But welcome chatting with anyone tuning in, and since this is more on the AI front, AI Marketers Guild, there's no charge to join. We do virtual events every Wednesday, and just happy to have more people to learn from there.
Awesome. Well, check it out, folks. David, have a wonderful day. Oh, I got to say, congratulations to the Knickerbockers. Even though I'm a Heat fan, I do have a sweet spot, which is totally weird that I care about the Knicks and the Heat, given the 90s. But I did live in New York, right? So,
yeah,
I do have an affinity for New York. So that's my defense, everyone.
Appreciate that. And it's at least like a good bunch of guys to root for.
Absolutely. Well, Brunson he's unbelievable. And, I gotta just say, my wife completely is obsessed. She's like, loves his story, and he's got a really great, like, human kind of relatable story out there. And I think a lot of us out there who have been underdogs, who were not counted as an individual that would be successful or that would be able to get out of their situation. I think Brunson really resonates and is giving the little man, quote unquote, hope, right? Like I was talking to my buddy the other day who's like double my size. We were playing little pickup basketball, and he said, he was like, oh, I'm going to beat you and blah, blah, blah. And I look at him and I said, well, I get, Brunson gave me hope here, right? So,
well, the way it's given hope to the city and many beyond, and even just, I don't know if I've ever seen teamwork like I have on a team like that, where it's like, Brunson had that huge 45 point last game in the finals, but he could be doing that every night if he wanted to, but he just wants to have the right team, and like he's there to win games and not run up his totals, and it just seems like for a team of superstars like that, it's just some of the least amount of ego I've seen anywhere in sports or politics or media or anyone like that with a spotlight. Damn, it's refreshing.
It is. Awesome. Well, David, have a great day, and see you soon.
Yeah, thanks so much.